Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. Let's start the NooBaa Community meeting and try to complete the review for the namespace cache range PR. And Paul, you wrote that you went over all of the comments from last time, so that I think if I'm going to Slack, I see that you wrote about the uploader limit, right? So the rate limit, I saw that in the code, the semaphore. Let me see who's joining. Second. Let's see. Okay, so I saw that in the code. I also have a few comments that I think I didn't publish it. So in case, let me publish my current comments just for you to see it as well, because it's pending as a review. I think most of them are just very small, but I aggregated it for a while, so I just wanted to make it published. So I just published it. You can see the first ones are not interesting, I think.
Okay.
See, so with the uploader, I give you another comment, just that I think this is something very generic. Maybe even we can add a submit function to the semaphore. So that would be pretty much the functionality that we wanted to have. So that's a small thing. I think the most interesting thing to just see, unless there's other topics that anybody else wants to go over, for me is about the API and drill down to the actual read range operation, and if we can share the mapping like we discussed last time. So if there's something else somebody wants to raise, or other comments that are pending in someone's review, so just let me know that, or just jump in. Otherwise, let me just go over that piece maybe, and try to see if I find any reason why sharing sounds better than not sharing that code. Okay, so share space. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I think you can see it. So this is the APIs, right? The start object part upload and the complete object part upload.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, good. And I'm not sure if it's probably being called in the server right here. So okay, this is the implementation, of course, right? And it's being called from object, either object IO or the namespace.
Object IO should be in object IO.
Mm-hmm. Right. So let me close this one for a second, and okay, yeah. Right. So let's track this flow. Okay, so we are from namespace cache, the function read hub object stream. So this one is the one reading from the hub and also submitting to the cache. So all the preparation here is for the hub read. And then this is the stream from the hub, and we would like to pipe it out to the response, I mean the request itself, and now we start with upload with a cache option. So here we have the condition of size. So this is hub read size, meaning that, and this, right, so help me out, Paul, maybe you can quickly give me your orientation. So these sizes are about, this is how much we've been reading, we're about to be read, to read from hub. And this one is?
This one basically, I changed, it's going to be determined by the free space of bucket. So if you just search up, above, you'll find out, that's there's a function which determines that basically it's going to I create a cache called bucket usage in object SDK.
Right. So what you wanted to achieve was you wanted to get the size of the bucket, the usage, right? How much data is? I don't know. Maybe the free. You wanted the free space, right, of the bucket, basically.
Yeah.
That was the one you wanted to get, and we didn't have it in the bucket SDK info before. Okay, so how about did we have any problem to add it to SDK info? Because I think it might. So maybe we do, but I'm not sure we do, because I think it's pretty much similar. I mean, the read bucket versus read bucket SDK info is the difference between them are a little bit of a permission-based change. So the endpoint is capable of reading all the buckets, right? And versus a specific user. So that's one. But I think other than that, I don't remember if there's a real reason why we shouldn't add any usage information to read object SDK info. Jackie, Jenya, do you think?
Do I think regarding the object SDK info when we read from it?
Let me show you. Let me show you the code that we're talking about.
Yeah,
so it's,
I actually compare those. Seems to me, object SDK info is mainly for provisioning information. So I was thinking about whether merge those, but I since I'm not sure, whether it makes sense. Don't know, basically don't know much about what's background behind that,
No, sure. This is good. I mean, this is why we want to take a look, right? So in Object SDK, where we have the bucket namespace cache, right, where we basically load every bucket namespace, which is not just namespace now, it's about SDK info, right? That's the API we call, and we keep that information. And what Paul added was a read bucket cache here, right? Which is like analog to this one. So it's really the same structure and all, but it's just a different response from the API, the SDK info, the bucket SDK info versus the let's say the standard read bucket API.
So the question is, should we do that, or should we just? But in theory, the read bucket SDK info also reads a bucket, right? It also gets the bucket with the get bucket info. So we can actually return the values that he needs in the read bucket SDK info and not create another cache level or another read bucket.
You don't see the reason why bucket SDK info shouldn't be added, the data usage or num objects. I mean, I think both are pretty simple to return. I don't think they involve any complex queries, but we need to verify. Let's just check this for a second.
So I mean, we already do that, because in the bucket SDK info, we already do the read bucket and we get the response from it. So I don't see a problem why we wouldn't just pick the values that he's interested in and insert them into the response of the read bucket SDK info. So, I mean, we can do that like that with another cache, but I don't see a reason to do that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to. So, Paul, is it okay? Do you see what we were saying? Can I put a comment and we'll just merge it to the existing one?
Before you do that, could you just go to the object SDK, the file, just double check, read bucket SDK info, just
in object SDK, you mean?
Yeah. So if you just look at the entire file, then read.
Yeah, sure.
Read bucket info, navigate to read bucket info. Just I look at it. I just no, not this the bucket. Bucket API. Basically, the bucket API is a bucket API.
Yep.
Or JS. Yeah, look at that file and just try to make sure. Yeah. So read bucket info. We have.
Right. So we don't. So you can see we don't return it today. That's correct.
Right.
Let's see what we should see. And I think maybe, I don't know if Jenny looked at it right now, but let's take a look if we want to cover that completely in the server.
In the bucket server, the method itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do a find bucket. Yeah, here.
I think it's the one above, right? This one. And
yeah, also find bucket. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So find bucket also does that. Should do that. So the find bucket populates all of the values that he needs, and you can use the return.
No, not sure. These are all the additional queries, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like provide summary. They has a post processing. Based on the function set there.
Yeah.
So I got it.
Let's see. If we take a look at get bucket info, we can probably see how do we calculate the data.
Yeah, it has a lot of calculation there. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. There's some dependency on the queries from before, right? We pass them on into this function through this information, and then we calculate data. Let's see if we can even see it directly from data here. Probably not, because we could probably pass it somewhere. Where is it? This is the mode. Okay, so we need to go over, just see if this makes any sense, if we can return it, because even if we didn't before, right? We can always say, okay, so we have a need to get this information to the to what we call the SDK info, to add it to the SDK info, and we want that as a part of it, and it's probably in some way easier for us to add it to the existing call so that we have it in a single request and cache, and not separate the caches just because the APIs are somewhat different, right? So we can add even the queries if we need.
So basically,
we need to see. I mean, I agree with you that it's not straightforward as just calling the get bucket info here, because it's doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
I have one comment, if I may add.
Yes.
When using this kind of data, like bucket free, we must take into account. Doesn't matter how we get it, in which API. We must take into account that this is the same data, because I saw that the namespace bucket is using it to make decision without taking into account that this is at least half a minute, if not longer, behind the actual usage on the bucket.
Yes, right. So there is so the calculation here is even a little bit more, right? So it can be delayed after the actual filling of the bucket. So that's one aspect of it. And I think it's okay. I mean, we might end up needing something more granular, but I think for now this is better than not having it, right? So we'll see if we want to have something more real time in that specific flow. But I don't think that's the case. This is an optional. So the decision we're taking with it, Bud, is that we want to decide to drop a write to the cache, right?
Yes, I saw that.
And also there's there's a factor, percentage factor. If it's delay too much right now, it always can just play with that. 80%, 70%, 50%. If it's a delayed, it's small, you can just reduce that percentage number so that it give you some live room to play with, right? Yeah.
The actual delay is dependent on the number of writes
Okay.
occurred just before. It's a background process.
Yeah, no, but it's not. So it's not entirely true, right? So the delay is, first of all, it depends on the delay that we decide to impose. Right? So we can speed it up and shrink the delay. There is some problem because we are not really, we don't want to count the in-flight work, right? So we don't want to be real-time accounting here because we don't want the endpoint to be synchronizing all writes and understand the exact actual space usage. We want some lazy kind of operation here to allow some work without it. But in any case, I think it's an estimation of a problem that instead of trying to write and getting to fail and failing, we are trying to understand that faster, right? I think that's what we're saying. So I see that there's the entire thing is probably inside calc metrics right here. And right here we should probably see where our data is getting populated here. So it is a complex flow, the calculations of the usage, because it comes from tiering policies and whatnot, right? So there's some complexity about it. The question is if we actually want to pull it in some way. Not sure if it's even easy enough without really copying all of these actual queries. So if we can do that, of course, right? So we can do the same query that is being done in read bucket. We can do that right here, right?
So that means you're going to change the API, right? If you want to do that.
The API, it's an internal. I mean, the SDK info is an internal API for the endpoints.
Okay, so it's basic. Okay.
And the point about it was that we wanted to extend some more, so to change some of the information that we wanted to expose per bucket for the SDKs, right? For SDKs, meaning that the ones that live inside the endpoint, basically. And so I think in terms of the function, I think we should include the functionality that we want and the information here in the same manner that we do elsewhere, right? We can just do some copy pasting here or share it in some way. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it's really big, but I think this will be preferable to reading to make another call just for that. It just makes more organization. And if we want to optimize later, we can say, okay, so this one requires only the information that we defined in this API. And we can, do some refactoring, say, okay, so this calculation is required and maybe the function configs is not required, so I can totally ignore that, right?
So if I'm trying to understand, so you would like to move or duplicate line 141, to 141 to 149 inside read bucket SDK info, just with some tailored methods. For example, we don't need func underscore configs. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So I think calling the same thing, right, just to get the information that we need, I think we want to run it right here. We can certainly, make it run, I mean, be written once in some internal function here. If that, I mean, it seems logical that we can do that pretty easily, right? It's short, and we can, and then what we have is at least the APIs are concise to their usage, and we can move forward and modify the implementation of the server as we refactor it. But I think your PR means that we need the usage information. Okay, for the SDK info.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go back to this one. Okay. Let me go now to namespace, object IO, like we said. And we started with the flow of, oh, sorry, so it was namespace cache. Sorry for jumping. Let me settle on the location for a second here. And I'll stop moving. This is the read. And this is hub read. And this is submit. Right. So here we are checking against the maximum cache object size. Okay. And submit. And I took a look at this earlier, and from the semaphore. So this basically just calls this under the semaphore, and right. Right. So let's make sure that we have it here. Do we have the object ID here? Here it is. Okay, I see it now. Yeah. That's good. And then we call the object range part. And now, so what is the situation at this point? Do we have the object? The object itself is created already, or we don't know?
Yeah. Our object itself has been created, like the with just the metadata.
Right. So the object ID exists, and we have an object ID which might be for the first case empty. Right. We didn't add any parts yet. Right after it was just created, and then we are pushing the parts here. Okay. Okay, and then you're calling upload range part and object IO. Right. Okay, so that's exactly what we discussed. So the response has these configurations we need, right? So that we can actually upload the stream. That's right. And we then complete. Okay. And what other side effects do we have? So are we, do we expect this to create any metadata? Start one?
No, this one I actually just modify. If we just go to that function, the name probably misleading, but its main purpose just return those encryption info chunks config. Then it actually is also updates the upload. One of the property in metadata says I'm uploading. Other than that, it just this line 1472, and I don't think we need that. But essentially, this one just return information. So that's why I'm saying the name is kind of misleading. Yeah, but it doesn't actually. No,
I think you're right. I mean, it's misleading in the sense that it's not creating real metadata at this point, but it is if you look at the operation, this is the starting call and that's the completion call, and right. So we don't have to update, but
Yeah, let's say if we remove line 1472, then we certainly need to rename the function.
Okay. Okay, so let me think. So the point is maybe this. It's really a small point. It's not really as. So I thought it's more meaningful here, but it's really not, because let me jump back to this one, because it's just a wrapper for the actual upload. So we are sharing all the code. We just added another complete and another start complete calls. Actually, the start call is not very. It's not doing much. I mean, it does, because it does need to load the object MD, but it is cached in many cases. We do have a small cache for uploads, and I think you used it. Right, you see this? Oh, so you used even a newer function here for that, I see. This one. And again, sorry, I didn't copy again. Right, so you see that we used the object MD cache, which is an object MD cache that we use only for uploads, because we didn't want to load from the database when you have like a lot of uploads, repeating the same the same work over and over just to start a new part. So we used like a very short-term cache here. And we don't use it for any actual user operation, right? We just use it internally between our calls in the upload stream. Okay. So this is probably not very it probably won't be even noticeable. I mean, this function, apart from this update, which is an update, it's probably really just a function call for us. We don't do much because it's local in the endpoint, right? So that's not a problem. I was more concerned about the complete, because we should, like, we are updating, we're doing updates to that, and this just means that. So what do we need to do this? Let's see. So when we create parts, they are uncommitted, right? So we have to complete them so that read can actually go ahead and complete the read, like allow reads from them. There's another person coming, I think. Let's see, yeah. Okay, I don't see a seam joining. Let's see. Okay, he joined. Okay. Okay, so now this is maybe this is more more of the actual thing that we need to handle, right? The update of these parts to be a completed part and not uncommitted part, which is something that normally we don't do when we just upload the stream, right? So what you did here is correct, right? You took all these parts and picked. I don't know if you did the exact counter of what happens in multi-part upload, which is to pick which one. Right? There's sort of a picking thing there, because there might be retries of the same thing, right? That were created together, and in multi-part, the completion is more of a commit, an actual commit, so to speak, of the object's state. Here, it's not really an object state change. You see, so the thing that I'm trying to understand is if what we want to do is somehow, pass this different state of how we want to create those parts to upload stream, so that we create them uncommitted. Because you see, the uncommitted state for these parts was just created because we had to for the multi-part upload. But let's try to take a look at this together for a second, because I think that we didn't really have to use it, for example, in normal put operations. Let me open the object server here. And let's take a look at, so there's, what is that? Complete. So complete object upload. It's a normal object upload that's being completed. I mean, it can be either, but in this case, either multi-part or normal parts here, right? And when it's normal parts, we do complete. So we do need to make these updates in the same manner that we do for the multi-part, and we pick them up and just make them a bulk update, right, of all these parts, which where do we complete? Where do we? Right about. Not object multi-parts, but right here. So yeah. So these are the updates we push. We push an update to sequence start and end. And of course, we do that only if there's a change in sequence, right? So we know that we need to update the parts if they belong to different multi-parts. And in that case, they were uploaded with the same sequences. So starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. All multi-parts have this sequences. So we know that when they mismatch the actual sequence that we're we're iterating through here, we know we need to update the sequence and the start offsets and the end offsets and all of that. So that's the completion. But for a normal put operation, this is actually not. This update should not be doing much, right? So it's probably only this update, right? So only unsetting the uncommitted one, which is in some way a little bit, just a little bit unneeded. I mean, we could have avoided this update in many cases, I think, because the normal put operation is not really overriding itself in any way, versus the put part, which can be called more than once on, and it doesn't really create a part, right? It's just a number, the part. So we need to have like a different version of the put to understand that this is a put, different multi-part. In other way, the put object will put a new object anyway, right? If I retry or change object and try again or do something like that. So in some way, if I commit my object, I mean, if I'm committing a certain object, it's not that I probably don't even need to create those parts uncommitted to begin with. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think is this. So if we want to be more of a, if we just want to go ahead and advance for a second here, and not pay attention to all of these details, which is totally fine. We can, I think, we can live with this, with these API calls. I mean, they make sense in the fact that they do the same thing that we do in multi-part upload and normal upload. But I do think there's a nice opportunity here in both of these cases to avoid this final complete update, and that will be better, I think, for this, because it's just an unneeded database update in the end of this upload, which and it's not just the update. It's actually more than that, because you need to find all the parts first. Complete object part. No, it's not this one. Sorry. So complete part range. Part. Right, this one. So we need to load all these parts, and well, it's not all, right? So it's just the ones that we just wrote, basically. because it's not really a full object write. And then okay, so we can probably make an improvement there, and we try to do that. So Paul, we can, it's really depending on you. If you think this is interesting enough to tackle right now and try to make these parts, we can make these two modes where we put them uncommitted versus put them already committed, right? And for the caching purposes, we can put them committed, and then we don't need to do anything at the end, right? It's easy. And on the start piece, which is also interesting, I think I also have an idea, which is not really, maybe it's not long term as well, but we can pretty easily get rid of it if we want, but just by inventing, so to speak, that the policy that we want to use in the endpoint. So what I'm saying is that, let me show you. What do we call this? Start range, start part, start object range. Start right here. So all these, these are pretty easy to, I mean, maybe if we take like this apart for a second, again, the upload size and things like that. I'm not sure if we actually need this, yes or no, but we'll see. And it's probably not a very stable calculation here. So the things that we probably know what to do is, we can put a split config to be 4 megabyte split, like fixed chunk split, right? This is what we want to achieve actually, which is probably what we are returning from the cache there. And the coder, we can decide like what are the defaults for cache buckets, right? We can make it like local here without the call if we really want to. The two things which might be more difficult, the bucket ID, tier ID, but it's probably not, because we also have the bucket SDK info there, so we should be able to get information like that if we need. So just as an option, we could also use just something static here if we needed for just to get rid of a call. But I don't think it's really. I mean, it's just a function call for us, so it's okay in any case. This one is more complex because it does the database updates. So that's that. So I do want to comment that in the PR, but we can certainly have discussion on how you want to go with this. We can defer that to subsequent work, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's really up to you, I guess. But one thing regarding the complete object part upload that function. So if we remove unset, uncommitted property, right? So that means we have to change the when the part is created in the first place need to be in uncommitted. It needs to be false, right? So
yeah.
I kind of forgot. Will that change will affect other place? I kind of forgot where that initial creation is done, whether it will going to affect.
No, so think about it this way, right? We are, let's say that we are caching a read from the hub, right? We're reading from hub 4 megabytes for some range, and we want to cache this. So we are going to put it uncommitted, and then write it, and then commit, and then update to committed, right? Or unset the uncommitted flag, and then it's committed. So we end up with a committed part.
Yeah.
And we don't really need any fixing to, offsets. So there's no reason why we should use it. So these mechanisms of, having to complete it were created because of the multipart protocol, not because there was, and maybe there were let's see. There was another case. Let me. So I'll tell you the other case just for the sake of having a complete description here. We use the uncommitted flag in order to delete the parts that we don't want to use eventually.
Yeah.
So if we take a look at this, I think this is starts somewhere in MD. Let's see, uncommitted. Oops, uncommitted. So this is in read. So we ask to read only uncommitted, only committed parts, right? Ones that do not have the uncommitted flag, right? That's for reads. And let me see. So if we don't use that, that's interesting. If we didn't use this, let's see, because it means that maybe we didn't use it for the cleanup itself. It's interesting. So this is how we create the multi-part itself, and probably also the part. Right, so parts are also created uncommitted, and here's where we unset uncommitted for the parts that we choose. So what do? We find all parts, we sort them by start offset, and we go around, iterate through them.
Yeah, this is the partial object parts. Probably similar.
Oh, there's the second one. Right, this one. Yeah. Right. So the differences between this, I think this is being used there. Object parts versus right. So the partial one, the multi-part one. Right. Yeah. So we need to sort of do that per every multi-part, so that we call that. So the uncommitted flag here, I was sure that we were using it to query as well, but we use it only as a protection for the read, basically. That's something we once had a bug which caused us to add this state, that a multi-part upload with retries that changed the part content and committed eventually a different part e-tag got mixed up because of the existing parts that we did not clean up or mark in any way. So what we said was, okay, so let's start first of all by making these uncommitted so that we can have a chance to filter them somewhere, and we can unset that. But I think it's pretty exhaustive, and as an implementation, we probably can do better and without this overhead. Even for the normal case, we can do that, because I think the only thing that we actually needed was that the complete calls will make it organized. We'll make the object serializable in the sense that it has offsets for every part and they don't overlap. And I mean, they can overlap if they are the same in essence, but we don't need that. I mean, there's no reason why we want to have them overlap. Certainly if they are different. But I think there was something here. Let me see. Something is perplexing me, because I remember we did something to remove the unneeded parts here. So this is not this one. This one. So, yes, this one's updating the multi-parts. So you see the delete unused parts here. You see that? I think this was the one. It was, we were taking the used parts away from all the parts that we collected here. Yeah, so this is for multi-part upload, though. It's not really for our case in this, so it's okay. I think we can do better. So I'm not sure. The only question I have at this point is, in one way I do want to make it better, because I think that this latency is not like the best thing we can do for a cache implementation. But I also don't want to, wait for no good reason. So I think I would prefer to put this as a next item for us to tackle and complete this PR.
Sure. I can work on it. To see whether we can eliminate. We should eliminate that extra step. Unset, uncommit, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this was my comments. I will write these these comments at least. Oh, I stopped sharing. So I will write these 2 comments, and we'll put one delayed and continue from there. Any other comments from anybody? Okay. The one thing we can use this few minutes. I mean, we can stop, but the one thing we can do is maybe take a look at the rest of the PRs in the pipe here. Let me share that again. Okay. Right, so we were reviewing this one, and we have Jackie added here. Oops, not this one. Sorry, the other one. I think also Jackie already merged the one with the sizes, right? The tier size. Yeah, the pool sizes, the cloud pool size, right?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that was good. It was just a gap that we had with cloud pool size, and cloud includes also the compatible S3, right? So if we wanted to use any local storage from Ceph RGW or any other type of local storage considered even in the cloud, and not based on PVs, but based on another service like that, then we didn't have a limit, so that we didn't have a limited capacity size, and we couldn't do any rotation about it as a resource. So now Jackie added this. We still have a gap there that Jackie's working on, which is about sharing the tiers between these buckets, because today they are not properly shared, but we noticed that, and Jackie's testing that. So we don't have a PR for that yet, but still work in progress for Jackie. I want to show you this. You probably saw this document, but I'm going to show you anyway. This is the doc I created for the community meeting notes. I did maintain it so that there's the first meeting here notes. Sorry, this is the first one. The second one was this one, and I'm sort of pushing it down one by one. So I'm going to take this as the next one, right? So this is the one we're doing now. So we want to check. We check this one. We want to check this one. We did it. So I'm going to document that. And we did. I mean, I did put here like a list of things we want to cover next. So there's the PR from. See this one, the garbage too, right? Okay, so is this already up to date, rebased, or anything that we can work on?
This is already rebased, so it's up to date. Okay,
perfect. Okay, so this is in our pipe, right? So we want to see that, and maybe just also maybe it writes there, but bucket configuration for garbage here in the front end. Okay, so we have configuration. Eviction on right. So how do we evict a chunk and evict even objects, right?
Yeah.
This includes that as well.
Yeah.
And server-side copy related changes. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is in this one. Okay. Okay, and if we continue in the list, we have after that I saw 3 more. Okay. So these look like smaller, but let's.
Yeah, these are smaller. This is for version ID. We return a 501 if there is a version in the request.
Got it. Okay.
And
Oh, but I see. Okay. Okay, so we need to review, but I can
Yeah.
I can see where we're going. Okay, so it's a small PR. It's good. Okay, very focused on this change on the restriction of version IDs.
Yeah.
Okay. Support S3 operations.
this has, I think, multi-part upload, server-side copy, if there is a cache miss, and if the buckets are different. So if the source and target buckets are different, then I
Yep.
made some changes here. And listing of objects is based on the hub.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Got it. So nice. Okay. So we have here maybe the one thing that's difficult here. Okay, I see. So some of these were somewhere already in the code, but some of them you're saying it didn't. Oh, we didn't. I
Yeah.
see. We didn't use the actual flag. We did to do it and all that. So we had to complete that. Got it. Okay, so that's good. This operations, missing ones, and last modified time.
In this PR, I'm storing the time, create time return from the hub, and I store it as last modified time in the cache,
Yeah.
and then update the, if there's a listing from the cache, we switch the time to use that last modified time.
I see.
It's still work in progress, so there are a lot of print statements in it.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, that's good. That's a good cover. So I'll add these to next meeting. And next meeting, I've set it to Wednesday, and I think let me know, guys, if this is okay. I want to move these meetings to Wednesday because Monday we had some collisions. If it's okay with you, and I did set a like a shorter one for Mondays, but it's later for us, so I thought it might be a good balance between having a short one on Mondays and an hour long on Wednesdays. Okay, and last note, I wanted to say that I would like to review my PR for namespace FS at some point. I mean, it's not shouldn't be before these things, but when we have the time, I will schedule that in one of the meetings. It's not about getting it to a complete product situation, but it is for a POC. That's the usage at this point. So I would love to just talk about it, show that, and see what you guys comment. And anything else? Or we can complete this meeting.
So Guy, you're going to enter the comments regarding the API in GitHub or in the Word document, or both?
So I use the document just to have some memory between the meetings.
Okay.
But I in any case I'll update the PR. I want the PR to have that.
Cool.
Anything else, Paul? From you, do you have anything else you want us to discuss next time, and to for next work or anything like that? Is there any thing we need to think about for your next step? You want to check?
Not really. Things in my pipeline so far is just testing, because I said there's just to validate any changes going forward for regression purpose.
Yep.
So that's one of my big piece. Another piece I'm working on small things like called multi deletes. That's a small things.
Okay, so I think it's good. I think maybe at any point where you were where you're planning any testing coverage, what we can try to do is we discussed it for performance a little bit, so that we can just try out working with a remote cloud. So our local latency, I mean, our local machines will not be too slow for that line. So we can just see the ratios that we get, like for a single operation, see how do we get from local operation versus how do we get that from a remote operation, see how that looks like.
Yeah, that one, that way I can work with Sanjeev. Sanjeev has set up, the one node worker, one worker node cluster, like with 64 gig, right? Is that right, Sanjeev? We can use that to performance test, to see how much gain we get from cache.
So there's also Giri Badanati. I think he's also running some performance. So we can see if we can talk to him as well. Okay, so we'll sync up on these next things. I think we might want to take a look at the improvements there that we discussed. So on next meetings we'll try to touch on that. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Sorry for stretching it a little bit. And see you next meeting. I'm stopping the recording.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.